Hello again. Okay, next up we have week 4 of the YouTube Pagan Challenge. And this week has to do with my take on the Wheel of the Year. So this is an interesting one for me because I am still kind of refining my take on the Wheel of the Year. Most witches, I think, follow the standard Wiccan or Celtic themed Wheel of the Year with Yule, Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, Litha, Lughnasadh, Mabon, and Samhain, right? So those are the main holidays. As mentioned before, I kind of grew up in quasi-Gardnerian world, Gardnerian / eclectic Wicca-ish. Was my upbringing in witchcraft when I started. So since choosing my path, which is Asatru, I've had to make some adjustments. Now, most of the adjustments have not been major. The holidays are very similar between the two traditions, but some of them are quite off, actually. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with that. So, my take on the Wheel of the Year thus far. Yule. I have always loved Christmas time and Yule, and I really like the idea of absolutely celebrating the 12 days of Christmas. So, I do attempt to celebrate Yule from the 20th of December through the 31st of December. I may or may not, I'm still working on getting to the point where I can take that entire time off from work because I do work from home, so theoretically it should be possible, but I haven't made it yet. And also still figuring out what I want to do for each of those days. Because within the Norse tradition, there are some activities, some rituals that are done at the beginning. You have Mother Night, which precedes Yule. It's the night before Yule starts, honoring the women ancestors of the family. And then you have Yule proper. That's the next night. And then there's kind of a gap until you get to 12th night, which flows into New Year's. So the celebration is similar to, standard New Year. And so that in-between time, I'm still working on how I want to celebrate. I've had different ideas here and there, but I don't have anything too set in stone yet. But I do like celebrating Mother Night, Yule, of course, and 12th night into New Year's. So from there, here's where we come into one of the sticky wickets within the Norse versus Wiccan calendar. Next holiday in the Wiccan calendar is Imbolc in February, which is also Candlemas, right? Which is another holiday that I really like. But for the Norse tradition, there are actually kind of two holidays that fall into this time frame. The one that is most similar to Imbolc is the Feast of Thunnar, so the Feast of Thor. And it's kind of got, when I think Candlemas, when I think Imbolc, I think warmth and starting to brighten up and a little blonde girl with candles around her head and all these beautiful things. When I think Feast of Thunnar, it's much more harsh. It's like really far north that, you're into January now. This is the worst part. We know that the sun is coming again. The sun was reborn at Yule, right? But January historically is one of the worst winter months. It's cold, you have snow, you have sleet, you have all of this stuff, so it's still very difficult. And that's why for the Norse tradition, this is the time where we call on the Thunderer. We call on him to continue to chase away the frost giants because they're not gone yet. They're weakened. They are weakened, but they're not gone. So this is the time when we hail Thor as the Thunderer to chase away the frost. So that comes round about the January full or new moon, so sometime in January. And then what also happens in February, which has, again, another connotation similar to Imbolc, in the coming of the spring, we have disting, which is basically, it's the beginning of the planting season. And now nothing's officially planted yet. That happens later. Again, January was still a very cold month. February is only just starting. You see the glimmer of a thaw on the horizon. So the tradition behind disting is more of is encouraging that thaw. There is mythology surrounding it, of course, that I'm going to try not to get into for this, because I can explain it, I think, in other, like on my blog or something. But the mythology is basically, you have one of the gods, you have one of the giants, woman, and he's trying to court her, and he has to thaw her out, basically, get her to like him or allow him in order for spring to happen, right? So I'm saying that a lot, right? So charming of the plow is what this is. You're the charming of the plow. It's like the courtship, charming this frosty woman to make her more subtle so that he can go and create with her, right? So, and I did it again. Disting. So we have Feast of Lunar, disting. Chase away the frost giants, charm the plow. That all happens between January and February. And then we meet up again with the regular Wheel of the Year at Easter, Ostara. The timing, again, all of these, the timing is a little bit off, and when in doubt, I am very likely to use the traditional Christian dates for these holidays, because these are the dates I grew up with. And it just makes it easy for me. I like to celebrate at the same time that my family celebrates, because I personally don't have any big disconnect between my family and myself as far as religion. None of us are that vastly religious that it's going to be a problem. So I like to celebrate at the same time as my family. So I may tweak the dates a little bit to make it what I'm used to. And me personally, I don't find anything wrong with that. Other people may, but to each his own, and do it on the best day that you can. So Ostara, same thing, springtime, bunnies, eggs, all that goodness. And the one thing that is important at this time of year for the Norse tradition is this Ostara is when the wild hunt ends. So you had the beginning of the wild hunt. Let me see if I put it down here at winter nights. So basically Samhain. And so during this whole time, I'm going to use the wild hunt as an analogy for basically the harsh months, the hard months out of the year, those 6 months between October and March, April, that are the hardest to get through. So this ends here at Ostara, which is important. And then the next holiday coming up is just past. We missed it, or I missed it. The other night I had homework. Walpurgisnacht. And this is a fun one for me that I really enjoy. Basically, it's the night before Beltane. Beltane is not highlighted in the Norse tradition, but the night before is. And my favorite part of this holiday is the lore and legend that this is the night when the witches gather on the Brocken in Germany, the witches' dance place. There are two, actually. There's the Brocken, and then there's another place called the Hexentanzplatz, the witches' dance place. But this is a wonderful little bit of personal family history, sort of, because my family comes from Germany, and I like that aspect of this holiday. And it has the same connotations. Even though this is celebrating kind of the witches getting together, what's not highlighted in the modern telling of this is the reason that the witches are getting together. The reason they're getting together is because they are celebrating that union of God and Goddess, that fruition that's coming now in May when everything starts to grow. So that's where the connection to Beltane comes in, even though Beltane is not the part that is focused on in the Norse tradition. Following Walpurgisnacht on April 30th, we have Midsummer, which is, I believe, the same, it's roughly the same as Litha. So it's the summer solstice. Nothing too different there. And then we have the Loaf Feast, August 1st, which again is similar to the Wiccan Lunasa. Nothing huge, no huge differences there, so I can keep straight on the same calendar. I've got my Wheel of the Year with my notes. Now we come up again with some differences here around the equinox, around Mabon. Mabon is not celebrated by the Norse, but we do celebrate winter nights right around here, September, October. And winter nights, to me, actually is much more similar. It's a lot more like Samhain. So winter nights, I've already done a video on it if you want to take a look, but it's very much delving into the ancestors, starting to look within, knowing that the dark time is coming, the dark part of the year, and we need to kind of gather everything we have in, and it's a time to start that introspection, which culminates at Yule. Those 12 days of Yule, between Yule and 12th night, they're the in-between. They belong to no year, the past year or the new year. They're not part of either. So this is the kind of ultimate time to do introspective work and look at yourself and where you are in life. So this all kind of begins at Samhain, when we start to look back at our ancestors, what they did for us, knowing that the veil is thin, knowing that now is the time to use their knowledge. This, for me, is winter nights. So what I actually did here, my books that I'm following for Asatru will say that winter nights should happen the first full moon after the equinox, which is at Mabon. But this doesn't necessarily put it close enough to Halloween for me. It really, for me, it is Halloween. So I personally celebrate winter nights on October 31st. And around the equinox, if I want to do something around the equinox, since there is no official holiday, Norse tradition holiday around that time, I will do probably an alpha blot or a disa blot or both. Probably alpha blot, because and the difference is the disa blot is a celebration or a ceremony honoring the women, the female ancestors of the line, the female deities, etc. Whereas alpha blot celebrates the men, the fathers, the male deities, etc. And so since we have a couple of times during the year that the focus is really on the mother and the female, then I think this is a good time of year to focus on the father, because that is not something that I have a lot of experience doing. Just the way my tradition has gone, and I'll go into this in another video also, I think it's mentioned in here with patron deities. I have not focused a whole lot on the father, even though the father aspect and the father figure, the male deities, are important to me in general, in the things that are important to me as far as my own values and my family values. But I have not done a huge amount in incorporating them into my witchy practice. So the equinox is a good time when it's a good time that I will take to focus on them specifically, rather than the mothers. All right, and I think that brings us all the way around. So, Norse Wheel of the Year. Oh, and then I mentioned already winter nights. So Norse Wheel of the Year. Yule, Feast of Gunnar, Disting, Ostara, Walpurgisnacht, Midsummer, Loaf Feast, possibly an alpha blot, winter nights. And there you have it. For the most part similar to the Wiccan Wheel of the Year. Some small differences and some tweaks that I've made on my own just to make it more comfortable for me as far as what I've grown up doing. So I hope that was interesting for you, and I will be back again with another video shortly. Thanks for watching. Bye.